I'm so pleased to have in the studio with me Danielle Blevins, who is the Supreme Court reporter with Talk Media News. TalkMediaNews.com is the website. And Danielle, you were in the Supreme Court this morning when the Texas abortion case was being argued. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, I was. Thank you, Tom, for having me. Yes,
sure.
The 8 justices heard the case this morning from Texas. Basically, there's this Texas abortion law where it would put undue restraints and regulations on all of the remaining abortion clinics in the state. The clinics sued, along with one doctor, and said that all of these restrictions would basically make most of the abortion clinics in the state shut down. Opponents say that the regulations are for the health and safety and benefit of the women of Texas.
Yeah. I mean, one of the standards that I thought was most egregious, hospitals are required in the state of Texas and in most states, and it's a not unreasonable standard to have hallways that are wide enough that two gurneys can pass each other. In other words, you got an unconscious patient on one bed, you got an unconscious patient on another bed going to and from surgery, that they can pass each other in the hallway. So you got to have like a 15-foot wide hallway. So they're saying all abortion clinics have to meet that, quote, hospital standard, which is silly. Because, most abortions in abortion centers are, here, take this pill, first of all. And secondly, even when it is a procedure, it doesn't involve gurneys and hallways. And if there was an emergency and somebody had to go, you don't need a 15-foot wide hallway to get them to a what do you call it, ambulance.
Exactly. And that was one of the things the justices really discussed, was how abortions are conducted and how they're conducted now. Like the pill, like you said, the medical procedure. Most people will take the pill, they'll go home. Right. Justice Ginsburg said that the regulations say that they have to be 30 miles from a hospital. They have to be within 30 miles of a hospital.
After they take the pill?
After they take the pill. But is it for the clinic? But if it's for the clinic and the woman's 100 miles away, she's 30 miles from what? Right. So we really have to look at how these regulations are implemented in the way that abortions are conducted. Yeah. They really just kind of delved into the issues and just wanted to really examine the procedures and why they would not be an undue burden on a woman's right to choose to have an abortion.
Lacking Justice Scalia, Kennedy had been basically kind of the swing vote on abortion, I thought. With 8 people on the court, even if he goes to the right, that just locks it, right? That just keeps the Texas law in place?
That is correct. Mm-hmm. Justice Kennedy would be the swing vote on this if it was going to be upheld.
Or struck down.
Yes, or struck down. Right. The district court, they struck it down as unconstitutional, as an undue burden. The Fifth Circuit said, no, with some tweaks here, it's basically constitutional and we can have these restrictions in place. So a certain amount of clinics and a doctor appeal to the Supreme Court. If they kick it back down, remand it, the Fifth Circuit constitutionality standard will stay in place with no decision coming from no precedential effect coming from the Supreme Court.
Right. In other words, women in Texas are going to be in trouble and the abortion clinics are going to be closing.
Exactly. And that was one of the points Justice Ginsburg, she raised in her argument to Solicitor General Scott Keller. He pointed to the fact that there would still be 10 abortion clinics in metro areas where women could drive to. They would all be within 150 or so miles. But then there would still be some people who would still be 200, 300 miles out from any available abortion clinic. One such clinic would be near El Paso, Texas. This clinic, women in this area, they would have to drive to New Mexico in one of the clinics that the state of Texas is using to justify their standard. And Justice Ginsburg asked, why are you sending women from your state to the state of another when they don't even have these type of health restrictions on their hospitals and their clinics? If it's for the health and safety of your people, why are you sending them to a place where they don't even have these regulations? Right. And that was something Keller could not really answer and justify to Justice Ginsburg.
Well, which takes us to the larger issue, and with the all the amicus briefs, the front of the court briefs that were filed, there were a number of them that were filed by Texas women who were basically saying, I had an abortion and it helped my life, it saved my life, it made my life better. I went on to have children. I feel fine about it. et cetera, et cetera. But there were also several hundred women who filed amicus briefs from Texas who said, I had an abortion and I had complications, or I had an abortion and now I regret it. And that suggests to me that the debate was not about the Texas law or about these trap laws or about how abortions are going to be conducted or in what facilities, but rather about whether abortion itself should continue to be legal in the United States.
I really don't think that the court wanted to go back and revisit Casey and say that there is no right to abortion.
Well, this would be revisiting Roe. Even.
Roe, I mean, pretty much. If you look at Roe has been gutted. Only thing that maintains in Roe is the fact that there is a right. But I think if you overturn Roe and you still have Casey on the books, the fact that it's in Casey, that the fact that there is a right to abortion, and the fact that states can't put an undue burden on that, undoing Roe would not champion what abortion opponents want to achieve. That's not the case, and I think that that's what Justice Kagan wanted to get to today in her question. She's like, there are so many other medical procedures that have a higher chances of complications. Why is the state of Texas going after abortions where there's only there's very limited chance of complications? Yes, they exist, but there are only so many. Why is Texas going after this? And basically, after some prodding from Justice Sotomayor, Keller basically admitted that this was a public policy act and public concern. It's a matter of public concern, and this is what the public's focusing on.
In other words, it's about abortion.
Exactly.
Because my wife went through breast cancer, and I've been through. We've been in a bunch of clinics in this town that are not hospitals, but where they do procedures, and they don't have 15-foot wide hallways. I mean, of all the different kinds of medical facilities, which would include dental facilities, where you've got much higher rates of complications, serious complications, life-threatening complications, much higher rates of referrals to hospitals for emergencies and things, they're not held to these trap law standards. Only abortion clinics. This is purely about abortion. Was that point clearly made before the court this morning, and did anybody knock that down?
I think that where the justices came in on that point was more so they didn't want to say that Texas was doing anything unrational. And basically anything on its face, that the fact that Texas has a state interest in preserving the life and welfare of an unborn fetus and of a woman. Right. So you've got those two state interests, and then you also have the right of a woman to choose of whether or not she wants to have an abortion or can keep the baby. Right. So with that, there was this balancing test going on with Mr. Chief Justice asking, we have to take this rationally. What is undue about a state's placing the burden on these clinics? Right.
So Danielle, in the minute we have left, if it's the Fifth Circuit, right?
Fifth Circuit, yes.
The Southern federal courts, they're the ones who ruled basically in Texas's favor, and that will, in other words, shut down the clinics, and that will stand for Texas. There are other circuit courts. Have they ruled in other directions? And if they do, will that force the Supreme Court to react in a different way? I
think the way Texas's law is written, and it's so strict and so standard, everyone's looking at this as a test case to see what the justices will do. And the fact that there is not a ninth justice on this case to decide means that a lot of these other states' laws may be challenged, and we'll see what the court decides to do. Because right now, it's really up in the air.
Right. And thoughts on what might happen if President Obama gets a nominee on the court? This is just going to have passed by, right?
Yes.
It'll
probably be back.
Yeah.
But it will have passed by. Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. Danielle Blevins, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks,
and thanks
Tom.
so much for being in the court this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And many thanks to Talk Media News for having us.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.